Something strange is happening with your gaze. You're not imagining it. It's real. Your eyes are beginning to see beyond the visible, and that silent change is transforming everything. You're not losing your sight. You're gaining a new way of perceiving, a perception that penetrates matter, reads energy, and reveals hidden truths even in the kindest smile. When the soul awakens, the first thing to change isn't the body. It's the eyes. What once went unnoticed now shouts, and what seemed normal suddenly feels sacred. This isn't just a simple message. It's a confirmation. If your vision has become different, if you notice flashes, glows, emotions that are felt without words, you're in the midst of one of the most powerful spiritual processes. In this video, you'll discover 3 very specific and powerful signs that your eyes are undergoing a deep spiritual awakening. These aren't common symptoms. They're unique marks that only those who have begun to see what the soul can understand. Sign 1. Your eyes awaken to the invisible. It all begins with a subtle sensation, something you can't explain logically, but it feels different. Your eyes, which throughout your life have only served to see shapes, colors, and movements, now begin to capture something deeper, something that doesn't belong to the physical world. You're no longer observing the surface. You're beginning to feel with your gaze. You look at someone and, without exchanging a word, you know how they feel. Their energy vibrates before their voice. You enter a room and don't need to look around to know if there's tension, calm, or an invisible force filling the space. You know it, you perceive it, you feel it in your body. It's not imagination. It's your spiritual vision activating. Your eyes are no longer limited to matter. They now recognize the vibration behind every form. You're beginning to see with the soul. And along with this energetic sensitivity come phenomena that might unsettle you. Subtle flashes in your peripheral vision, soft lights that seem to surround certain people, a glowing haze in the air, or even colors that weren't there before. It's not eye strain or hallucination. It's expanded perception. It's your ability to see the energy field surrounding all living beings, slowly manifesting before you. At first, it might scare you. You blink, rub your eyes, think something's wrong. But there's no mistake, only revelation. Your perception is sharpening, not deteriorating. You'll also begin to notice that certain environments or lights affect you more. Artificial lighting might feel dense, intrusive, even annoying. Meanwhile, sunlight, the glow of fire, or the clarity of the moon feels sacred, soft, and full of life. Your eyes are becoming more receptive, not in a fragile sense, but in a profound one. They're beginning to capture the hidden frequency beneath the visible. And then something even subtler happens, but just as transformative. Your gaze begins to affect others. People you barely know tell you your eyes are different, that they feel peace, or an intensity they can't explain. Some even avoid you. Others feel magnetically drawn to you. It's not your physical gaze that's causing this reaction. It's the energy flowing through it. Your eyes are no longer just seeing. They're radiating. You're a channel, and your gaze has become a language that doesn't use words, but speaks with power. You transmit light, vibration, presence. Over time, this perception deepens. You can recognize blockages in someone without them saying a word. You can sense that their aura is contracted, dim, expanded, or full of life. You can intuit the presence of spiritual or dense energies just by looking. Your surroundings are no longer neutral. They become legible. Every space emits an energetic signature. And now, you can read it. This isn't an extraordinary ability. It's natural. But few souls have remembered it. When your eyes awaken, they do so in harmony with the third eye, with the higher consciousness of your being. And at that point, you're no longer seeing with the eyes of the body. You're perceiving with the eyes of the spirit. Sign 2. Your eyes become magnets of synchronicity. And then something even more disconcerting happens. Your eyes become magnets of synchronicity. What once seemed like simple coincidence now becomes too precise, too exact, to ignore. You begin to notice that every time you focus your attention on something, that something takes on new meaning. You see a repeated number just when you're thinking about something important. A sign on the street gives you an answer you weren't looking for, but needed. You open a book at random, and the text that appears speaks directly to what you're feeling. All of this seems coincidental until it happens too many times. Your eyes begin to function like antennas. They're no longer limited to seeing. Now they tune in. They capture signals, symbols, patterns, and most importantly, they attract those messages to you. Synchronicity doesn't just happen in front of you. It happens with you. It happens through your gaze. And the more present you are, the more precise and frequent those signals become. Sign 3, your eyes begin to radiate light. And just when you think it can't intensify any further, the most subtle and, at the same time, the most transcendent thing happens. Your eyes begin to radiate light, and the souls of others perceive it. And this isn't a metaphor. Literally, your gaze starts to feel different. Some people look at you for a few seconds and feel peace. Others simply can't hold your gaze for long. Without realizing it, you're generating an emotional response in those around you. You're projecting energy from your presence, and that energy is felt. That's when people start saying things like, "There's something in your eyes, your gaze is very intense," or "I feel good when I talk to you." It's no coincidence. Your energy field is cleaner, stronger, more present, and your eyes are the channel through which that energy flows more clearly. You notice it too. You look in the mirror and see something new. It's not just an expression, it's a different depth. Your eyes don't reflect tiredness or confusion. They reflect focus, clarity, presence. You feel more aware of yourself, and it projects outward without you trying. The most interesting thing is that often you don't need to say anything. You're silent, but people open up to you. They tell you how they feel. They feel heard even if you haven't spoken. Your gaze becomes a safe space for others. Not because you've sought it, but because you're holding it with your energy. The opposite can also happen. Some people might avoid you. They might feel uncomfortable without understanding why. And that's also a sign that something has changed. Your presence reflects what others don't want to see in themselves. Your light begins to unsettle those who are still asleep. But that's not a bad thing. It's part of the process. You're not here to please everyone, but to be aligned with who you are now. And if your gaze begins to trigger emotional reactions in others, it's because of revealing things that go beyond words. You're not imagining anything. Your gaze is holding a new frequency, a more conscious, more present, more alive energy. And even if not everyone understands it, many will feel it. As that light grows in your gaze, something even more revealing happens. One of the strongest and yet hardest to explain changes is this: your gaze no longer stops at the surface. You begin to notice what's behind the words, what others hide, what you yourself didn't want to see before. You see someone smile, but you sense pain behind it. You hear a positive speech, but something in their energy doesn't align. You realize when someone isn't being honest, even if their gestures say otherwise. And it's not that you're looking for flaws in others, it's that you now feel everything. Your eyes begin to scan the invisible. They capture intentions, tensions, inconsistencies, and that can be unsettling at first, not because it's negative, but because it makes you see that many of the things you once took for granted no longer are. You can no longer stay in places that feel empty. It's harder to feign interest in conversations that lack depth, and it becomes increasingly evident when someone is speaking from the ego rather than the soul. You feel it. It weighs on you. It makes you uncomfortable because you can no longer ignore it. This clearer vision also turns inward. You begin to notice your own patterns, your fears, your excuses, your ways of escaping. And though it may hurt, it's a beginning of real freedom, because when you see clearly, you can choose with awareness. You also become more sensitive to time. You realize that everything is more fleeting than you thought. Life moves fast. People change. Nothing is fixed. And that leads you to value what's authentic. You no longer want superficial connections. You seek what's real, what's honest, what resonates with you. This new way of seeing the world might make you feel lonelier at times. But it's not loneliness. It's space. A necessary space to reorganize your energy and begin surrounding yourself with people, places, and decisions that align with your current truth. And when your eyes have learned to see beyond a veil, to read energy, to hold light, and to dismantle illusion, something even deeper begins to happen. Your gaze becomes a language, one that doesn't need words. one that speaks directly to the soul of the person in front of you. There comes a moment in your awakening when you discover that you don't need to speak as much, that your presence says far more than your words. And the most curious thing is that it starts to show in your gaze. Your way of looking changes. It's no longer just observation. Now there's intention, there's energy, there's connection. You look at someone and that person feels it. Sometimes they don't understand why, but they feel like you're listening to them even in silence. Your eyes begin to communicate what your soul wants to convey, and they do it effortlessly. It's as if your energy speaks first and your voice follows. You begin to notice that people feel comfortable around you, even when you say nothing. They confide deep things in you. They open their inner world to you without you needing to ask. And it's not out of curiosity or insistence. It's because your gaze has become a safe space. The opposite can also happen. Some people feel exposed in front of you. They avoid your gaze. They get nervous because your eyes reflect what they carry inside, even if they're not ready to face it yet. Your gaze becomes a mirror. It doesn't seek answers. It doesn't force anything. It simply shows. And that, for many people, is more powerful than any conversation. The most interesting thing is that this silent communication doesn't only happen with people. Animals feel it too. A cat staring intently at you. A dog staying close to you without moving. A bird that seems unafraid to approach. They don't need words. They just sense the energy. Even children perceive it. They look at you attentively. They sense there's something in you that understands them without judgment. And that calms them. Over time, you also begin to understand this new language. You notice when someone says something, but their eyes reveal something else. You sense when there's a contradiction between what someone expresses and what they truly vibrate. And that sensitivity helps you make better decisions, connect more deeply, and walk away from what's not in alignment. Your gaze has become an open channel. It doesn't need explanation. It's simply felt. And those who are ready to receive that energy will do so, even if they don't say it, even if they don't understand it. They'll feel it, because when your eyes awaken, communication no longer happens only through words. Now your soul is speaking without saying a thing. One of the most striking signs of a deep spiritual awakening is when you realize that your gaze doesn't just observe the world, it begins to transform it. Without you even noticing, your focus starts to have a direct effect on your surroundings. What you place your attention on begins to change. People react differently, spaces feel different, and even objects and the energy and motion seem to respond to your presence. You realize that coincidences aren't random. What you look at, what you choose to see with intention, begins to manifest. A focused thought, sustained by the attention of your gaze, seems to generate concrete results in your daily life. Your vision becomes an act of creation, not because you're forcing something, but because you're now operating at a frequency where your consciousness has weight. It has impact. You perceive how, by observing something with clarity, paths open up that weren't there before. When you look from the heart, situations flow more easily. And when you look with fear, blockages also appear. You begin to understand that seeing isn't a passive act. It's a tool for creation. What you hold with your gaze has the power to transform, and what you ignore loses its force in your life. This kind of perception makes you much more aware of how you choose to see the world. You no longer look with judgment. You look with responsibility. You know that what you focus on grows, and that every time you choose to see with presence, you're influencing reality. Your eyes are no longer just witnesses. Now they're an active part of what's happening. And when you understand this, the way you move through life changes. Because you know that your energy doesn't just accompany you, you're projecting it. Your eyes are no longer the same. You know it. You felt it. Now they perceive energy, not just forms. They attract signals, reflect truths, hold light, and reveal what others cannot see. You become someone who doesn't just look, but truly sees. And seeing with the soul changes everything. It transforms you. It exposes you. It liberates you. Your gaze no longer goes unnoticed. It's a channel, a mirror, a presence. People notice it, animals perceive it, and your surroundings respond to it. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to justify it. You just need to remember it. This change is real. What you're experiencing isn't confusion or coincidence. It's an awakening, an internal process that's now reflecting in the external. Your eyes have become instruments of consciousness, and your soul has begun to use them. This doesn't mean you have all the answers, but you're seeing with a clarity you didn't have before. And even if some don't understand it, this vision that now resides within you is guiding your path. Don't hide this process. Don't minimize it. Don't doubt it. Because if you come this far, it's because you're already living it. And what has awakened and you cannot fall asleep again. If this message resonated with you, subscribe. This space was created to accompany you on that silent journey that many experience, but few can put into words. Here, we continue awakening together. Thank you for your company. Until next time.